calling the White House comment line. Hello, America. This is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Democrats in Congress have shut down the federal government because they care more about funding health care for illegal immigrants than they care about serving you, the American people. Until Democrats vote for the clean, Republican-backed continuing resolution to reopen the government, the White House is unable to answer your call or respond to your questions.
We're kind of disappointed that we're going to get to miss some of the sights and things because of the closure.
We're here on Constitution Avenue, and important things are being damaged.
I do worry about friends and neighbors who will be affected financially. I don't know how you pay your rent. I don't know how you pay your child care.
It's disappointing. Like, you don't want things to be shut down or people not to get paid, and you want funding to be there.
I'm a strong proponent of take care of Americans first, and so if we're going to push for that, let's push for a better health care system for what we already have for veterans, for the folks in America that are legal, and past that, if we get that fixed and settled, which may never happen, but then we can push for the other.
We have the possibility that its Smithsonian daycare will shut down, but meanwhile we have military decorations still marching up and down needlessly.
I don't know why they can't get along, I am a Republican, so but I understand it takes both sides to come to a compromise.
When you travel 3,000 miles to come to see America's history and you can't get to see it because the government can't work things out.
I hope that the negotiations work and healthcare access for all is maintained.
There's plenty of blame to go around. It's happened under Democratic rule and Republican rule, and if they would just look out what's best for everybody and just get down to business. Government's the only one that can operate like this. Private industry certainly good.
I'll say this, there's a shifting that is happening. And right now, we are witnessing the shutdown of US government. We are witnessing the panic in the streets. We are witnessing the silence of those who once thought they ran the world. This video is not about politics. It is about prophecy. Yes, I said it. It is about prophecy. The mighty empire is shaking. And the ones who thought they owned the earth are reacting in shock. But this is just the beginning. It is the beginning of an empire falling. It is a beginning of the rotten empire. Is it a beginning of the fall of a rotten empire? An empire that was built or soaked in the blood of people. An empire that was built on lies. This is just the beginning of the falling and shutdown and everything that is happening. That's the video I'm going to react on. I'm going to play you videos of white Americans reacting. Because we never knew it would come a day like this. I never knew it would come a day to see white people in shock, in panic, because the dream is shut down. Now, let's watch these clips and then we come back and talk more.
Republicans are blatantly lying to you about why this government shutdown is happening. And I'm telling you this as one of the people who is being seriously harmed by this shutdown. My husband is active duty military, and our household budget has officially been shot to by this shutdown. Now that he has to go to work every single day, but they don't have to pay him until all of this is over. Unlike, of course, Congress, who will keep receiving their paychecks. I'm having to make phone calls today to all of the companies that we owe money for things like utilities and housing to let them know that we don't have the money to give them until all of this is over, because what little we do have has to be conserved for groceries right now. And you know what? I'm willing to make that sacrifice on my family's behalf if it means that our neighbors don't lose their health insurance. What I'm not okay with is having to suffer through this while Republicans like Mike Johnson and J.D. Vance are lying about who is doing this to me, to my family, to families just like mine, because they are the ones doing it. This shutdown is happening because the Republican Party, which currently holds full control of the House of Representatives, the U.S. Senate, and the White House, cannot corral enough members of their own party to pass a budget on their own. And so they need Democrats to vote in their favor. And Democrats have said they'll do that. The one and only thing they've asked for in return is for Republicans to help make sure that 20 million American citizens don't lose their health care at the end of this year. That's it. That's all they've asked for. That's all they want. That's all we want, is for you to not lose your health care. But Republicans have refused, because apparently making sure that you don't have to pay hundreds or even thousands of dollars more a month for health insurance is just too much to ask of them as your elected leaders.
I have not been overtly political on this app before because I'm a white woman and My opinions don't really matter, but I do have a political science degree. Immigrants are not our problem. The reason we have a government shutdown is because the House Republican bill wants to do a lot of things. It does not want to extend the tax credits for the Affordable Care Act, which means that people's health care is going to be more expensive because we did not let Barack Obama regulate the insurance companies because capitalism. They also want to penalize states who do their own Medicaid expansion in their own state to cover people who are not covered under the federal criteria for Medicaid. This includes immigrants who don't qualify under the federal guidelines, whether they are legal or undocumented. There are a lot of documented people who don't fit the qualifications, and so a state Medicaid expansion program would include them. There are also certain states who provide certain healthcare benefits for people who are undocumented. But that is state money. That is a state choice. Federal taxpayer dollars are not going toward that. So if I hear anyone saying they want to give undocumented people health care, that's simply not the truth. So Republicans, which are supposed to be the party of small government and states' rights, want to penalize states who want to exert their own authority to give health care to who they deem worthy of health care. So I'm pretty sure if the Republican Party is true to its values of states' rights and small government, small federal government, then these states should be allowed to do whatever they want. That's just me. I'm just saying.
I really wish this wasn't real, but it totally is. Not only are we throwing out misinformation, we're also lying. I have found myself having very difficult conversations with the people around me. I'm like so grieved, also very upset that even though I'm a Slavic woman, I'm considered a white privileged person. And I hate that. I hate that we're having conversations about that. I hate that there is a difference between myself and the Hispanic community and myself and people of color. And it like has had me kind of really emotional lately because like this shouldn't be a thing, yet it is. And I hate that I fall into the category of white and privileged, and that there are people around me, some of my closest friends, that have been and are affected by this. That's not okay. And yeah, it kind of like feels like your hands are tied. I'm literally going overseas with one of my best friends, and she is a Hispanic woman, and we've had to have conversations of what happens if she gets detained even though she's an American citizen. Conversations like that are just like, we're going on vacation, and we also have to have conversations about what happens if she doesn't get let back into the country. I'm like so grieved and burdened. Never have I wanted to like move out of the country more than I do now.
Social media is in the game of division, and they are picking a side. That is what works. And I am telling you, when you lose your philosophers, when you lose the people who go back and forth, that's not vacillation, it's not weakness, it's strength. It is easier to pick a side. You people actually think one is good and one is evil. It applies to like 80% of people on social media ingesting political content. You think the other side is evil, not wrong, not stupid, evil. Evil. That's what that ad is designed to say. Transgender for everybody. Whoa, what's the alternative? Transgender for nobody. That's the only other logical position, right? What does that mean? You're all going to be transgender. Your kid's going to go to school. They're going to chop off his dick. I mean, that's where it takes us. That's where we are. So silly and stupid. Just like calling Trump a fucking Nazi. Just like believing that if you say, hey, look, if he gets better trade deals and someone else winds up paying for these tariffs and the pricing goes the right way, then I'll say the tariffs worked out. Right now, they don't seem to be working out. How can you even say they could work out? What would you say to Hitler? I think what you're doing is wrong, but I like the uniforms. Is that what you would say? No, that's not what I would say. Because there is nothing to mitigate the wrongness of that guy. These are policy positions. No, he hates immigrants. He hates them. His mother's an immigrant. Does he hate her? I don't think so. I don't think he hated her. I'll have to check. Why are you defending him? Why do you stick up for him? Why are you MAGA? You're MAGA. You MAGA. Or as some of you say, you MAGA. You MAGA. People with English as a first language, articulate people, you MAGA. You MAGA. You MAGA. That's what I hear. And that's just the new flush, right? The new flush. Why? Because of me being so frustrated that the Democrats are trying to become what they're supposed to oppose. Hate machines.
I believe we're about to go through the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. There's about to be a lot of pain and suffering. Why do I think that? I mean, Trump already holds the record for the longest government shutdown in 2018, which is 35 days. And he's already shown us, so he has no issue firing people. And anytime he can make something about the other side and say that it's all their fault, even though he controls all three branches of government, I think he's going to take it to try to rile up his base. This is about to get very ugly. And personally, I think it's going to be the catalyst for a lot of bad stuff coming around the corner. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And I'm already starting to see some MAGA people starting to crack. Like someone said it was fake news that Donald Trump held the record for 35 days. They also said it was fake news that TSA agents and other government employees were not going to actually receive a paycheck until the back pay. But that's how it works. There's no paycheck until the government reopens again, which means every government agency, when they're not getting a paycheck, might be more likely to call out sick and do other things in protest. And you're going to start to see some chaos. And once again, a guy that calls himself the greatest negotiator ever, even wrote a book, The Art of the Deal, fails another negotiation when he held all the cards. Remember the Ukraine war was going to end in one day and all these other things he was going to end in one day? Calling yourself a great negotiator and being a great negotiator are two different things. And personally, I think he's terrible at it. You got to work with both sides, dude. You're not a good leader.
Well, I have very big news, and this is scary. If you have not heard about what's coming for October, the gist of it is that during this government shutdown, our government and our military may have dropped the ball on a huge security risk. Because not only one, but 3 reputable sources have told me that there is an attack, a huge threat planned for October 7th. And the details that I've heard is that there has been some kind of sleeper agent or sleeper cell group that has been dormant in the United States for a while. We've all heard that, we all know about that. But what we didn't know is that apparently these agents are set to attack major cities in the United States coming October 7th. We are trying to understand the credibility of this plan, but this is scary. Stay alert and stay safe because our government is distracted. They are shut down right now.
The federal government is shut down. Yeah, the federal government is shut down. And what is the president doing about it? Nothing. He's sending out little childish memes and stuff, just basically doing literally nothing. And this is his job. Even he said, if there's a shutdown, it falls on the president. The president's got to get people in a room and get the government open. The government has to be open for the people. Okay, Mr. President, where are you? What are you doing? Because the shutdown just continues and there's no end in sight. And you want to know why there's no end in sight? Because you, sir, are not doing anything. Nothing. And right now, our government is shut down. So you would think, as the President of the United States, you would say, wait a minute, this is one of my key jobs, is to keep government open. And once again, Mr. President, you have failed. You have failed epically, as usual. Just like you do on just about everything. You fail over and over again. And something so easy, you have the House, you have the Senate, you have the Supreme Court, you have the White House, you have everything. And you still can't do your job.
Welcome back. You have had the reactions. White people are reacting. Americans are reacting. It's not that black people are going through this shit, but You know, black people have been here and they have been going through this hell for more than 400 years, more than 500 years. Our ancestors, our great ancestors, grandfathers, grandparents, they went through this shit. And that's why you are seeing that white people or black people ain't so much creating videos, regretting and crying and everything. Because if you have been through something and you have been coming over or come over it a number of times, you know how to deal with it, you know how to pass through the hardship of life. When things like this happen, you are ready to face. Even if you sleep hungry, that means that you have been sleeping hungry for some time, you know how to deal with it. Now, when the US government shut down, people called it a crisis. It happened on October 1st when they didn't agree on each other, Republican and democracy. But for me, I call it exposure. Why? Because the illusion that America is stable, the illusion that America is unshakable, the illusion that America is external or internal has finally cracked. Because the same government that preached freedom and democracy can't even fund itself. And suddenly, millions of white Americans who once laughed at the struggles of Africa, struggles of others, are now crying, are now panicking, are now asking for help. So I call it exposure. I call it exposure. I'm not calling it a crisis. They are learning what black people have known for centuries, that the system doesn't care about you. It only serves itself when the checks stop, when the jobs vanish, when the lights dim, then you see the true color. That's how it is. Because for generations, America told us that poverty was the fault of black people, that black people are lazy, uneducated, unqualified. But right now, see what is happening. Teachers, veterans, federal workers, white middle-class families are standing right now in food lines. Some are losing homes, some are begging to relief, You see white farmers, how they are going through, they are begging for help. And I'll say this, the same people who said pull yourself up by your bootstraps are realizing they never had boots to begin with. And what is even deeper is how quiet their leaders are. The very politicians they trusted, the billionaires they worshipped, the Trump-style prophets they followed, they are nowhere to be found. They told their followers that America will always be great. America, make America great again. That God only blessed them, But now their great nation is broke, is divided. Their great nation is desperate. You see, white America was not ready for the world, where they are not in control. They are not ready for that. A world where America is not in control, the American people ain't ready for that, because all of their studies, the books they have read, is about being in control. That's all they knew, being in control, Americans are not ready to face the same uncertainty, fear, and instability they imposed on others for 400 years. They are not ready for that. But family, we, for example, the children of Africa, have lived through wars and still risen. Black people have lived through wars and still risen. Black Americans have lived through wars, but they are still here. When the colonizers stripped our land, when the colonizers came and colonized our land, we grew it back with our hands. When they enslaved our ancestors, we turned pain into rhythm, chains into culture. We turned struggle into wisdom. So, while they panic at their fall of a government, we as black people, we stand steady. Black people stand steady because they have learned to survive without one. And the bigger picture here is because this is not just about America shutting down. What is happening right now is about the shift of power happening across the globe. How? Because Africa is rising. As we know, as we see, Africa is rising. The global south is awakening. So the same nations they used to call third world are now controlling the resources, the gold, the cobalt, the lithium, the energy of the future. So the white world is shocked. Why? It's shocked because their time of control is ending. They build their power on exploitation. They build their power on Africa's wealth, on black labor, on stolen brilliance. But right now, Africa is saying no more. The young generation from Kenya to Ghana, from South Africa to Burkina Faso is saying that we will not be ruled by foreign puppets anymore. They are reclaiming their language. They are reclaiming their minerals. Africa is reclaiming, black Americans are reclaiming their identity, Caribbeans are reclaiming their identity, are reclaiming for reparations. And once we start doing that, the economy of these Western economies is trembling. The IMF, the World Bank, the US government, all are falling or they are feeling the pressure of a new world that's no longer obeying them. White folks are reacting in shock because for the first time, maybe some have gone through that because when you look on history, there was a shutdown back then, but America was able to revive itself because it had the manpower and everything, the workforce was on their side. But right now, nothing is on their side. So white people are reacting in shock because for the first time, they are testing their own medicine. You see, when the black world suffered, the West called it economic adjustment. When Africa went through famine, they called it development challenges. But right now, when white nations face food shortages, when white nations face debts and unemployment, suddenly it is global emergency. What global emergency? Where was this empathy back then when Detroit failed? Where was this empathy when Haiti starved, when Congo is bleeding? Where is this empathy? Where was this compassion when African Americans were redlined? Where was this compassion when the police took lives, when our mothers worked the 3 jobs and still couldn't eat? They didn't care. That's what is happening. Because they thought suffering was meant for black people only. But the universe has a law. What you send out returns to you. So right now, as the mighty system breaks, it is their turn to learn humility. It is their turn to face what black people have endured under centuries of lies and greed. And this is not about revenge. What is happening right now is not about revenge, but it's about a revelation. Why? When a system that glorified greed and supremacy finally collapsed, the destruction, that's not destruction, that is cleansing. The shutdown is symbolic. It is not just a government closing, it's an empire ending. Even white economics admit it, that the US debt is unpayable. The dollar is weakening and the global market is looking elsewhere or everywhere, towards BRICS, towards Africa, towards Asia. While the West fights to stay relevant, Africa is preparing to lead. Africa is preparing to lead. And what's even more beautiful is that black Americans are reconnecting with Africa like never before. Right now, black Americans are moving back. Black Americans are investing. Black Americans are collaborating, are learning Swahili, are reclaiming roads that were buried. It is a spiritual homecoming. It is a reversal of the Middle Passage. The children stolen are finding their way back. And at this time, they are not coming in chain, but in power. White America doesn't know how to handle this. Why? Because, you see, they see black people, black unity, black wealth, black brilliance, and they panic. They see Gen Zs, white Gen Zs rejecting their culture. They see white Gen Zs rejecting their politics, rejecting their privilege, and they call it rebellion. But it is not rebellion. It is rebalancing. The truth is that the world is tired of lies. The truth is that the world is tired of fake freedom, fake democracy, fake news, fake morality. People want authenticity, if I can say that. And guess what? This authenticity lives only in Africa. It lives in melanin. It lives in rhythm, in soul. It lives in truth. As America shuts down, as the white world reacts in shock, the black world must rise in purpose. And this is our time to rebuild, our time to create new system, to create our banks, to create our schools, to create our media, to create our economies. Because while they panic, they lose the grip. And when they lose the grip, we prepare. While they crumble, we construct. While they divide, we unite as black people. Let's look at what it means spiritually. Many people don't know or don't understand that this moment was written long ago, not by politicians, but by the ancestors. The scripture said this: the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And that's not just a line. It is a prophecy of reversal. It means that those who build on oppression will fall, and those who endured oppression with faith will rise. When you look around, nature itself is reacting. Floods, drought, earthquake, even the earth itself. Even the earth is tired of injustice. Even the earth is tired of being soaked with innocent blood. The system of greed and exploitation can't survive the frequency of truth that's emerging. So white America feels that energy and they are terrified. Not of us, but the truth is because deep down they know that without exploitation, their world doesn't work. And the shutdown shows it. Remove money and everything stops. That's what it is. But when you remove money from Africa, from African village for example, and life goes on because we know community, we know sharing, we know humanity, we are rich beyond currency. Now, brothers and sisters, here's what we must know. We must be wise. As they panic, as I said, as they panic, some will try to distract us black people. They will try to use fear, division, and propaganda to stop their awakening. But you know what? They will push new narrative that Africa is unstable, black people are violent, migration is like this. They will flood media with chaos to make us doubt our path. But stay focused. When you see an empire falling, don't run towards it. Step back and build your own. Because the end of one system is the birth of another. And that's why the youth from Africa must rise with vision, not just anger. Turn protests into planning, hashtags into business, frustration into creations, because the next century will belong to whoever builds now. Now, white people are shocked because for the first time their system is teaching them what a black system already taught us. Power built on injustice cannot last. But the twist here is that the global awakening isn't just punishing them. It is freeing everyone. Because the fall of false power allows humanity to rebuild truthful. Imagine a world where wealth isn't stolen but shared. Where resources is not dependent on the West, but the world depends on Africa for wisdom, for technology, for stability. It is happening even today. It is happening through trade. It's happening through culture. It's happening through consciousness. Africa is not begging anymore. Africa is becoming the center. And black people worldwide are realizing that we are not victims. We are blueprint. When white America reacts in shock, don't laugh. Don't laugh. Why? Because this is our time of healing. The healing has begun. And the empire must crumble before the world can breathe again. While they panic, we must do what our ancestors dreamed of. Rise together. Africa and the diaspora must connect because media must tell our own stories. Black media, we must connect, build our black media, tell our own stories. Black children must learn their real history, and black people everywhere must know that you are not behind. You are the future. I'll say this, they are shocked, but we are not as black people because we have seen this before. Pharaohs falling, empires crumbling, truth resurrecting. This is not the end. This is just the beginning of the new world, where melanin is power, where unity is currency, and where the children of Africa finally take their rightful place in destiny. Grand Rising Kings and Queens, stay strong, stay awake, stay united. The world is changing, and this time it is changing in our favor.